Good morning, everyone. Okay, so if this was my left, I'd go, let's try harder. Good morning, everyone. Okay, thank you very much. So, welcome to Oxford Brookes University. My name is Gareth Neighbour. I'm Head of Mechanical Engineering and Mathematical Sciences here on this campus. I'm absolutely delighted, and it's a great pleasure for me to be here today and welcome you to Oxford Brookes, and of course the Faculty of Technology, Design and Environment, and in particular my own department. If you ever wondered where the name Brookes came from, it comes from John Henry Brookes. And he was one of the founding principals of the institution. He came up with this very good quote, which we passionately believe in, and it's part of our ethos, that a goal of all formal education should be to graduate students to lead lives of consequence. I'll come back to that in a moment when I tell you about one or two little stories that's related to the meeting today. Thankfully, I've arranged the weather for you on this beautiful campus. It's one of four main campuses of the university. You may have passed the main central campus today on the bus, which is in the centre of Headington, and the other one is Harcourt Hill on the other side of Oxford. In fact, there's two campuses you've probably passed. One is Headington Hill Hall, which is an old mansion, and the other side is the original institution itself. We're in the heart, actually, of Motorsport Valley. Now, you might have heard of Silicon Valley, you might have heard even of the Carbon Valley in Korea that's being built. But here we're in Motorsport Valley, and 9 out of the 11 teams are within a very close proximity of our institution. So perhaps it's no surprise that one of the main things you might hear about during your visit is Formula One, because we're all very passionate about it. However, the institution has a very long history. It might also surprise you that we are celebrating 150 years as an anniversary, and we're actually older than people think we are, even though that many people talk of us as the best modern university in the United Kingdom. We are actually fairly old. I won't go through the history, but to give you an illustration, many people don't realise that William Morris, later Lord Nuffield, famous for the Cowley plant in Oxford, was one of our students back at the turn of the century. He learned technical drawing from what was the original School of Art. So, university highlights. Well, we have a very high international presence. We're probably famous for having the most international students in the United Kingdom from UK universities. We have extremely good employment rates. 90% plus of our students are employed or in further study within 6 months. We have a very strong research base. Most of our research is of international excellence. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a moment. But probably what interests you most is we're one of the top UK universities for intellectual property earnings. And Eugene will tell you more about that, I'm sure, over the next couple of days. Eugene? So, and we have very strong employer relationships, which is really, really good. So what about the next day or so? Well, I think that we've got some very fascinating topics to talk about. I hope you'll have a very vibrant discussion, very strong networking opportunities, and excellent talks. Certainly the strategic use and management of IP is very essential in strengthening the European Union in terms of scientific and technological base and ensuring we have growth. So having said that in mind, in the talks that you're going to come across over the next day or so, maybe it's a good opportunity to reflect upon one or two examples from my own department. You probably don't realise that an awful lot of our graduates go direct into the F1 teams, and this is some of our graduates at F1 Lotus. Well, actually, what's one of the great things about watching F1 on the weekend is I always win, because I've got people in every team. It's great. And if I look at our vision as a department, the key things that come out about the meeting of the next day or so, it's quite interesting. At the heart of what we do is knowledge transfer. That's in our vision as a department. we're very focused on sustainable technologies, which perhaps might be surprising when I talk about F1. But don't forget, this weekend is the first race in Formula E in China. And economic performance. There's no point in doing anything unless it has economic performance. You might wonder how big my department, or how big this campus is. Well, in my department, I have 1,000 students. I have 30 researchers that were submitted into the Research Excellence Framework. Just gone. 90% student satisfaction. And I have high employability ratings. So we try, as the home of motorsport education in the world, to push the limit and racing ahead. And I hope you will see some of that over the next few days. But let me give you some examples of how we embody that and how we put the skills into the people from the very start. You might be familiar with Formula Student. Well, this is our entry this year to Formula Student. We won the UK crown for the 5th time, more than any other university. This is outside F1 McLaren. But the technology in this car is actually quite advanced. The main body is made up of an aluminium honeycomb carbon-carbon composite inner sleeve. And that technology that was devised by the students here is being taken up by many of the teams themselves as quite an interesting concept. So it's very high-performance engineering. To give you another example, well, actually, you probably don't realise that from a blank piece of paper to a production car to a race is 9 months. It happens very fast. And we have students that work with McLaren, and we have students that work with other teams very frequently. I'll give you another example, and I know you'll hear more about this over the next couple of days, is the bamboo bike. The guy in the centre is not me, by the way. That came out of a student project. The lead designer of that bike, Spend, is the gentleman sitting at the back, so if you've got any questions, he's the man to ask. But from a student project, through product development, through commercialization, full licensing for production, and on the market, happened that something came from a student project. And that's a very good example, I think, of how we can license technology that comes from inspiration and creativity. You might have come on the bus this morning. How many people came on the bus? You might have ridden on this particular bus. This is brand new. This is technology that's been in the news on the TV in the last week. One of our students from 2006 went to work for F1 Williams, £3.7 million investment into university buses alone that you might have ridden on this morning, looking at a gyro drive technology that increases the fuel efficiency. If you go to London over the weekend, you might also ride on that bus that has that technology. And that's values that we try and encompass in our students. So we try and tackle some very big questions here. Some of those questions on about the global vehicle park in the world, the emissions, e-mobility, lightweighting of structures, electric vehicles in particular, and working with organisations like Lara in Italy and EDF. That's my department. Also, we've got lots of interaction, human-computer interaction. That's led by Nigel. Where's Nigel gone? So Nigel's the man on this. And he'd be delighted to show you Arnie. Artie. I keep thinking Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm sorry. Artie. And that fits in also with the automobile industry because of autonomous vehicles, for example. My own research, I'm a carbon scientist. I edit the Carbon Journal, High Impact Journal. I deal with graphene technology on a daily basis. That's quite fascinating for me. People don't realise that some of that technology is being used in space exploration, web performance, electronics. I could go on, it's nameless. But what's also fascinating is that technology also feeds it also again into the automobile industry, into battery technology. But people don't realise there's not enough natural graphite supplies in the world to supply that technology. So there's some of the challenges that we face. And when we talk about research here, we don't really mention F1 because what we do is exploited in a whole manner of industries in sustainable engineering innovation, advanced engine propulsion of vehicles such as emissions, simulation modelling, systems integration. On a research basis, we're not known for F1 at all. So, and we've got some great facilities in the R building, just to my left, I think, or behind me. £9 million building from 8 years ago, full of excellent equipment, which we'll be delighted to show you. We're very happy to walk around it at any time over the next couple of days. The buildings are open until 8 o'clock in the evening. But we have organised some tours for you. I'm very pleased that we've got a very international presence over the next couple of days. Delegates from a whole host of European countries, which is fabulous. I understand there's a get-together at 5:15 today. I hope you will see you there. At that time, there'll be 2 tours of our facilities for those who are interested. You might have signed up, but if you haven't, don't worry. Please do go along as well. There'll be one of the robotics facilities, which will be led by Nigel. Nigel, if you see Nigel, just go towards Nigel, he'll organise everything. And the second one is the Motorsport Labs, which you can see some F1 cars, some Indy cars, some other types of racing cars and technology, and test equipment, engine emissions labs, and so on. Feel free to ask questions, observe what's going on. There's some very nice balconies in the art building that you can just look over and watch. So I'm very happy for you to do that. Also, if you want to take a break at lunchtime, go for a walk. It's a very lovely park just behind this building as well. And there's an archaeological feature up there as well, which is an old ancient roundhouse. So do go and see if you can find that. We had the army here yesterday, and I was really nervous about that because they had tanks with them. So it just remains for me to thank you very much for coming to Oxford Brookes, coming to my department, thanking you very much for that. Enjoy the meeting, and again, welcome.